family abandoned me on the highway. So I sold their house from under them. If you're watching this, subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from. I'm Mrs. Carmen, 74 years old, and 6 months ago, my own family abandoned me at a bus stop, 200 kilometers from home, thinking I was just a helpless old woman with no money. They didn't know I owned millionaire properties that they were living in for free. What happened next made them beg for my forgiveness. I'll tell this story from the beginning, because you need to understand how a mother who gave everything for her children can be treated like trash by her own family. My name is Carmen Oliveira. I was married for 45 years to Joaquim, who died 3 years ago from cancer. We had 2 children, Ricardo, 50 years old, and Sandra, 47. Throughout our lives, Joaquim and I worked hard to give the best to our children. He was a bricklayer. I was a seamstress. We were never rich, but we always had dignity. When Ricardo married Fernanda 15 years ago, they were having financial difficulties. They had just had their first child and couldn't afford rent. Joaquim and I offered our house. "Stay here until you get organized," we said. It was supposed to be temporary. 15 years later, they were still there. Not only them, but Sandra also separated from her husband 5 years ago and came to live with us with her 2 daughters. Our 3-bedroom house became chaos with 8 people, but I never complained. After all, they were my children and grandchildren. When Joaquim died, things started to change. First, it was small things. Ricardo stopped greeting me properly. Fernanda started complaining when I cooked, saying my food was too salty, without seasoning, outdated. Sandra began treating the house as if it were hers, rearranging furniture and decoration without asking me. "Mom, you need to modernize," Sandra would say. "This house looks like it's from the 60s. It was the house that Joaquim and I had built with so much love." But the worst were the conversations I heard when they thought I was sleeping. "She's becoming senile," Fernanda would say to Ricardo. "Yesterday she forgot where she put the house key." "And stubborn," Sandra would add. "Doesn't accept help, doesn't accept suggestions. It's difficult living here." "How much time do you think she still has?" Ricardo would ask in one of these conversations. "I don't know, but when she's gone, at least the house will be ours. We've been living here so long that there must be some right to it." My heart broke hearing this. My children were waiting for my death to get my house, but they didn't know something important. Besides the house where we lived, I had other properties. Joaquim and I, over the years, had bought 3 small lots on the outskirts of town. They were investments we made secretly, buying with saved money. Cheap lots that, with the city's growth, had appreciated a lot. When Joaquim died, I discovered these properties were worth almost 2 million reais. 2 million reais that my children didn't know existed. I kept it secret because Joaquim always said, "Carmen, money changes people. Our children must learn to be independent." I was beginning to understand his wisdom. The situation at home got worse every day. My children treated me like an unwanted tenant in my own house. Fernanda would even give me orders about when I could use the kitchen or living room. "Mrs. Carmen, today we're having visitors. Could you stay in your room so you don't get in the way?" When I protested, Ricardo took his wife's side. "Mom, be reasonable. Fernanda is trying to keep the house organized." Organized? It was my house. The last straw came on my 74th birthday. Nobody remembered. Not a happy birthday, not a simple cake. When I mentioned it was my birthday during dinner, Sandra said, "Oh, that's right. Sorry, Mom. I'm very busy with work problems." Ricardo didn't even look up from his phone. That night, I made a decision. The next day, I looked for a lawyer. Dr. Paulo Mendez was very clear with me. "Mrs. Carmen, you have every right to do whatever you want with your properties. If you want to sell everything and use the money for yourself, it's your right. And the house where we're living? That's also yours. If you want your family to leave, just give official notice. They have no rights to the property just for living there." I left the lawyer's office with a plan formed in my head. First, I discreetly put the 3 properties up for sale. In 2 weeks, I had excellent offers. I would sell everything for 1.8 million reais. Second, I found a nice apartment in a senior living community with 24-hour security, recreational activities, and medical assistance. It would cost 400,000 reais, leaving 1.4 million for my retirement. Third, I prepared the legal documentation for my children to leave my house in 30 days. But before executing the plan, I decided to give my family one last chance. It was a Friday when I announced at dinner, "Children, I need to talk to you about our future." Ricardo sighed impatiently. "Mom, if it's about money, we already said we can't help more with the bills. It's not about money, it's about respect. I feel like you don't want me here anymore." Sandra laughed dryly. "Mom, stop with this paranoia. Nobody said we don't want you here. Then why do you treat me like a burden? Why do you talk about my death as if it were liberation?" The silence was deafening. Fernanda was the first to speak. "Mrs. Carmen, you're becoming very sensitive. Maybe it's age. Maybe you're waiting for me to die to get my house." Ricardo exploded. "That's enough, Mom. You're delusional. Nobody wants your death. But we also can't keep walking on eggshells around you all the time. Then maybe it would be better if I left home." "Maybe it would be," said Sandra, and immediately regretted the words, but it was too late. Saturday morning, I packed a small suitcase with some clothes and important documents. I asked Ricardo to take me to the bus station to visit a cousin in Ribeirão Preto. "How long will you stay?" he asked, more worried about when I would return than about my well-being. "I don't know, maybe a week." He left me at the bus station without even helping me with my suitcase. But I didn't go to Ribeirão Preto. I went straight to a hotel and from there executed my plan. On Monday, I finalized the sale of the 3 properties. 1.8 million reais deposited in my account. On Tuesday, I bought the apartment in the senior community. On Wednesday, I hired a moving company to get my personal belongings from the house. On Thursday, I sent by mail the legal notification for my children to vacate my house in 30 days. On Friday, I put my house up for sale for 800,000 reais. You need to understand, I wasn't being vindictive. I was being practical. If my children considered me a burden, I would remove the burden from the equation. The phone rang Friday night. It was Ricardo, desperate. "Mom, what madness is this? A court officer came here saying we have 30 days to leave." "That's right, son. You said maybe it would be better if I left home. So I left. Now you leave too." "But Mom, this is our house too. We've lived here for 15 years. It's my house, Ricardo. It always was. You lived here because I allowed it. You can't do this to us. We have children. I also had children. Children who treated me like trash in my own house. Sandra took the phone, crying. "Mom, for God's sake, let's talk. Where are you?" "I'm fine, Sandra. I'm in a place where they respect me. But the house, are you really going to leave us on the street?" "You have 30 days to organize yourselves. It's more time than you gave me to feel welcome in my own house." I hung up and kept the phone off for a week. When I finally answered, it was Fernanda, of all people. "Mrs. Carmen, I know we treated you badly. I know I was disrespectful. But please, think about your grandchildren. They're not to blame for anything." For the first time, someone had admitted the mistake. "Fernanda, my grandchildren will always be welcome in my life, but you adults need to learn to support yourselves." "You're right. I know you are. But 30 days is too little to find a house and organize ourselves financially." It was a fair argument. "I'll make a deal with you," I finally said. "I'll cancel the house sale. Ricardo and Sandra can continue living there, but paying rent, a fair market value. And I want respect. I want to be treated like the owner of the house when I visit." Of course, whatever you want. And I want all of you to do family therapy. If we're going to rebuild our relationship, it has to be with professional help." They agreed to everything. 2 months later, our first family therapy session was revealing. "Do you realize you were treating your mother like a burden?" the psychologist asked. Sandra cried a lot in that session. "I didn't realize. I thought I was being practical, organizing the house. I didn't see I was being authoritarian with my own mother." Ricardo also opened up. "After Dad died, I think I transferred all the grief to irritation with Mom, as if she were responsible for him not being here anymore." Fernanda admitted, "I was jealous. Jealous of a 74-year-old lady. I thought Ricardo gave more attention to his mother than to our family." It was 6 months of intense therapy, but it transformed our family. Today, I live in my apartment in the community, and I'm very happy here. I have friends, activities, independence, and most importantly, dignity. My children visit me religiously every Sunday. They pay rent for the house, a symbolic amount, just to maintain respect. And our relationship has never been healthier. With the money left from the sales, 1.4 million reais, I'm living like a millionaire in my senior years. I travel, buy what I want, help charities, and have the security that I'll never depend on anyone again. Last month, Ricardo told me something I kept in my heart. "Mom, thank you for having the courage to show us how wrong we were. If you hadn't taken that drastic attitude, maybe we never would have realized how badly we treated you." Sandra added, "You taught us that respect has no age. That being a mother doesn't mean accepting any kind of treatment. The lesson I learned and want to pass on to you is this: it's never too late to demand respect. No matter your age, no matter if it's your children or family. Respect is not optional, it's fundamental. If you're going through a similar situation, know that you have rights. You have the right to be treated with dignity. You have the right to make decisions about your own life and properties. And if you have elderly parents or grandparents at home, reflect on how you treat them. They're not burdens. They're people who dedicated their lives to their family and deserve respect and affection. My family almost destroyed itself because of lack of respect and communication. But today we're more united than ever because we learned that love without respect is not true love. Thank you for listening to me. Subscribe to the channel and share your stories in the comments. Remember, you have the right to be respected, regardless of age. And for the children watching this, honor your parents, not when they die, but while they're alive, because one day you'll also get old, and you'll want to be treated with the same dignity you denied to those who raised you. Until the next video. And remember, respect is a right, not a favor.